Welcome to Motors and Medicine. On today's episode, I'm going to be reviewing the now famous Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 392. This particular one is actually even more special than that. This particular one is the XR version, of which in this particular color scheme, only 50 exist. So it's extremely rare. And so I'm going to be going over this particular vehicle, the build, what makes it even more special, and then we're going to look at the interior. We're going to go for a drive to give you a nice driving impression, and then we're going to end the video with a nice exhaust clip. So without further ado, we'll get right into it. All right, so here we are, starting at the very front. First thing you'll notice is it's got a much wider track than a stock Jeep Rubicon. In this particular case, the owner paid to have hub extensions welded on by Arctech and have the front axle reinforced by Arctech as well to give it more stability, to give it more strength. The width, the track width, is increased by about 5 inches on each side, giving it an incredibly menacing look. You obviously see the worn winch there in front, and it's got color matched tow hooks there. The line itself is nylon, which protects you from that whipping back when you're towing. Now, this particular vehicle, like I said before, has the 392. This is the highly coveted V8 motor, 6.4 liter naturally aspirated motor from Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and it has tons of torque, and it would make crawling quite easy. Now, next thing we're going to focus on here are these big meats. These are 39-inch tires, KMC wheels, bronze, with functional bead locks. This particular Jeep has been lifted with TerraFlex 3.5-inch lift, and as you can see here, it was the IR setup, so you have a little bit more travel, a little bit more extended flex capabilities. It was also outfitted with a rock slide side step to make getting in and out of the vehicle a lot easier. In fact, I'll demonstrate that right now. You open the door and the side step extends, making it a lot easier to get into the vehicle. All right, we'll move on to the back. The shocks used by TerraFlex in this case were Falcon shocks with remote mounted reservoirs. This particular vehicle has Arctech bumper in the rear as well as the front. The exhaust is still stock, but because of the V8, it's so loud, you don't really need any additional decibels at this point. Both the front and rear differential covers were replaced with TerraFlex. And you see here on the spare, because it's so large, the 39-inch spare, TerraFlex installed a super heavy-duty spare carrier there. And then they rerouted the rear brake light to mount right in between the wheel there, maintaining function of the rear camera. All right. One more thing I'll mention is that inside the wheel wells, we have these inner fender wells that are made out of metal by Arctech, giving it a little bit stronger appearance and a little bit better look, quite frankly. The shocks front and rear are adjustable, and if I can get a look here underneath, you can see it's got the extended control arms, upper and lower, the TerraFlex IRs. And we'll see if I can get a quick look there underneath at the drive shaft. There it is. All right, that's a heavy-duty drive shaft. And next, we'll walk around this way. We'll get into the interior, have a quick peek. So this is the interior. Obviously, like any Jeep, it has a removable top. The back is also removable. You've got nice leather wrapped steering wheel, leather seats, nice, looks like an 8-inch infotainment system there, digital. All right, open up the back, and we've got a little bit more leather back in here. Got these nice mole back on the seats here, just for easier storage. Nice speaker surround setup. And then you've got that nice drop down for the center cup holders and whatnot. All right. So now I'm going to be popping the hood. We can have a look inside, or look under the hood in just a moment. All right, now we got the hood popped. Just having a quick look over. This is the meaty 392. I love the gold accents there on the lettering. Nice clean setup. All right, functional ram air, of course. I expect nothing less from Jeep. All right, go ahead and get this closed up, move on. All right, so now we're back in the vehicle. I've got all my equipment set up. We're gonna go ahead and fire it up and take it for a ride and kind of get a nice driving impression. Undo the brake here. We'll put this window up. Let's see. There we go. Okay. All right, off we go. Now, as you all know, Jeep's been around for a really long time. They were building Jeeps for wartime back in the 40s. But as far as the Wrangler has been the go-to for Jeep's off-road world. And there are very few vehicles for off-road purposes that are better at off-road than Jeep. There have been a few that have tried to emulate that. Hummer tried, and they're pretty good, obviously, but they're expensive and they're heavy. The reality is that Jeep gets it done right. If you're going to go off-roading, especially hardcore off-roading, you want to be in a Jeep. And I'm readily willing to admit that, even though I am a Bronco owner. I own a new Bronco, and I believe the new Bronco is incredibly capable. But because it has independent front suspension, it does not have the articulation or the extended suspension that Jeep Wranglers have. Now granted, this one is very special and it has a lot more capabilities built into it. Now, first impressions driving this thing. It is definitely a lot easier to drive and smoother to drive than a stock, or I should say stock suspension with a lift Jeep Wrangler. This particular one, it's not just lifted, it's been widened, and it's got immense road presence. But what I noticed the most is because of that added track width, it's got a lot more stability. And it seems that because of the suspension and all the adjustments, the infinite adjustments on the shocks from Terraflex and from Falcon, my goodness, this setup is incredible. It rides really well. It's not too harsh, doesn't have too much jounce. I do feel like it's wider on the road, if that makes any sense. I can definitely feel that it's wider. I was mentioning to the owner that my father-in-law has a lifted Jeep Wrangler. I think it's got a 2-inch lift, maybe a 3-inch lift with, I want to say 33s on it, so not nearly to the extreme of this build. As I mentioned earlier, this is a 3.5-inch Terraflex lift with the extended range control arms, front and rear, and then the Falcon shocks. But what makes this really special, especially for the driving characteristics, is the widening of the track width. And I think that's what I noticed the most. I've been in a lot of lifted off-road vehicles, but this one is a little bit more smooth. It doesn't have the wandering that I've noticed with other live axle Jeeps. And obviously it's got really good power. So there's a car in front of us, but we're gonna wait, give it a little bit more room, and then we'll kind of give it just a little bit, see what kind of acceleration this vehicle does. Then we'll go to our turnaround point, and I'll come back and we'll finish up with an exhaust clip. Now, another thing I notice about this vehicle is it's actually fairly quiet. Normally, except for that nice exhaust clip, that exhaust sound is awesome. Normally these Jeeps get a lot of wind noise, and in this case I'm actually pretty impressed. This thing has pretty great capabilities. It does not have a ton of wind noise. Now granted, my Bronco's a soft top, so I get a lot of wind noise in that, but I did install the bikini top, which insulated the sound somewhat. This one's actually very quiet. I don't remember the last time I was in a Jeep Wrangler that had this much quiet inside the cab. So kudos to Jeep for improving that. All right, we're gonna be heading here to our turnaround point, and then heading down the road. We'll give it just a little bit of gas, see what it feels like. All right, gonna get into this parking lot, turn around. It's probably the extent of off-roading that the owner will ever do. He's told me that this is more of a toy than anything else, but I'm trying to convince him to do a trip with me to Moab. We'll see if he does it. We won't do anything too crazy if we do. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get back on this main road, head back to the filming spot, do a couple more things, and we'll call it a day. Another thing I noticed is that this Jeep has a really nice touch screen here in the center. I mentioned that earlier, but seeing it now illuminated, it's kind of nice. Apologize for the camera motion there. Got a little bit bumpy on that part of the road. All right, so I'm going to come around this curb here and see if we just give it just a little bit of gas, see what it feels like. Make sure there's no cars in front. All right. All right, wow. That's impressive. We got up to, I would say double the speed limit on this road very quickly. All right, this is great. This is a very impressive build, very impressive machine. Got a deer up ahead. Let them cross. Alrighty. All right. When you live near the mountain, you have to deal with deer in your yard and deer crossing the road pretty much every day. All right. Just going to be making our way back. I can't say how much I'm impressed with the plushness of the ride. Even though it is a Jeep, and I've been in many. Most of the time, Jeeps just are not very well road mannered, and that's on purpose because they're incredible off-roaders. I will say this: it's not easy for me to do like an apples to apples comparison because my Bronco obviously is not lifted as high as this. This vehicle has 39-inch tires, but much better suspension. My Bronco has the Bilstein suspension that's it's self-adjusting, self-sensing, and 35-inch tires with the Sasquatch package that it comes with. I will say that this Jeep is very comparable in road manners to my Bronco, and that's saying something because my Bronco by far wins the race when it comes to road manners, just because it has the independent front suspension. You just can't beat that. Any vehicle that has independent front suspension is going to have better road manners. All right, apologize for some of that sun glare. We're heading back down the road and trying to avoid that. But yeah, this Jeep definitely has pretty impressive handling characteristics, and doesn't seem to pull one way or another. That's another thing I've noticed in other Jeeps I've driven that are lifted with big wide tires, is that they tend to kind of tram, is what it's called. They tram line, and basically what that means is that the tire will just kind of find a groove in the road and just kind of follow it, and it kind of makes you wander all over the place. This is definitely not doing that. I could see how he could drive this for, you know, a pretty lengthy road trip and not have any issues or get tired or fatigued. You know, if you have a Jeep Wrangler, you know that you can't go on really super long trips without struggling a little bit with that road wandering stuff. All right, we're turning back in here. All right. So I'm just going to park this beast right here, and then we'll do a quick exhaust clip and we'll call it a day. All right, now I've got the camera set up out here by the exhaust. I'm going to hop back in the cab and give it a couple of licks just so you guys can hear the exhaust, and we'll call it a day. All right, that's a fantastic sounding exhaust. Stop right there. All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that. This was a real treat for me. This machine, just an incredible build. I just can't get over how well built this was. It really gets the job done. And more than anything, I'm just impressed with the ride characteristics, the quality of the handling, and the fact that it doesn't wander all over the road. It's the first Jeep that I will say that I've driven or ridden in that hasn't had that issue. So that's pretty impressive. I think this thing has incredible off-road capabilities. We'll see if I can ever convince my neighbor to want to do that. But anyway, if you guys enjoyed this last little clip here in this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't. And on the next video, I'm going to be getting back into the medicine. I think we're going to be talking about something that applies to a lot of us out here. Pretty common medical condition. So we'll get into that. But until then, this is Motors and Medicine signing off. Thanks.